What's up, everybody? My name is Bobby, and with me is my favorite gamer in the Go, Chase Kinnicky. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You've made it to the casual hour. It is currently the 17th of October, if you can believe it. And we are telling you all about episode 394, which is a What You've Been Playing episode. And we've got some fun stuff tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Diablo, I Am Your Beast, Metaphor, and Advanced Wars. We're also going to dive into that Xbox partner showcase. But we do have I have a question for you, Chase, more importantly. How do you decide, besides listening to our advice, let me just call that out right now, when to buy a new video game? Do you pre-order it right away? Do you typically wait for reviews? Or are you somebody that always waits for a game to go on sale?
Man, it is different every time. I certainly am like I've got a twitchy trigger finger when it comes to buying stuff. Like I often buy a lot of stuff that I certainly do not need to buy at the time. Um, but I don't know. Sometimes I just like I try not to pre-order when I can help it. I absolutely try not to pre-order. I think that is mostly a scam.
A fool's
It,
errand.
it made a little bit more sense back in the day when you were getting like goodies for it. Um, but I've just found as time goes on, I just do not want to pre-order games anymore. I want to at least hear somebody somewhere say that game is good before I go, okay, that sounds good to me.
Do you
Um,
trust one voice on that more than the others, or is it like
again, not as much anymore. There used to be a time where I was reading magazines or reading specific people or listening to specific people on podcasts. Again, us not included in that. And the time of Giant Bomb. When Giant Bomb was a thing. It's too bad they shut down, right? Um,
well,
but
some people would like you to think otherwise, but yes.
yeah, that's false flag. But yeah, I mean, there were times where there were more people around me where I was like, okay, I trust that opinion. I trust that opinion. And now I think it is more just not so much taking chances, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of on my own a little bit when it comes to some of these games. And I think I've become a little bit more reserved on the kinds of games that I buy, um, because I don't have those kind of safety valves of people saying, "Yep, that gets a thumbs up from me." So
Yeah.
it's more of like, okay, I need to, if I'm going to buy this game, I need to be more sure that I'm going to like it, and that's led to me buying fewer games in recent years, but I still feel like I'm buying them pretty darn often.
Well, I think that you and I are probably different than what most of our audience on Threads would be, because I asked those same questions of our folks there, and 58% of them said that they'll always wait for a sale. And I find that interesting. I don't disagree. I think games have gotten more expensive, and I think that games have gotten bigger, as we've covered on here, maybe too big, as we've covered on here as well. It's interesting because when I think about that question a lot, I used to pre-order I used to pre-order things by trade. So I would go in, there might be a situation where I'm trading some games in. They're like, hey, you've got this much money. What do you want to do with it? You've got store credit. I'm like, well, let me see the list of what's coming out. I'm like, oh yeah, just move it over there. And then I'd pre-order it, and then I could kind of cancel and move that around. But I also think that from a incentive, how do I want to say this? Being incentivized to pre-order, they would throw in swag or other elements like that you would get with it. And I know you get some of that today digitally. Like, hey, if you pre-order, you're going to get, like, I know the Diablo game we're going to talk about here in a bit. They even did it to where it's like, hey, we just announced this game is coming out in a few months, this expansion. But if you pre-order it today at this version, you're going to get a new mount, all these cosmetics that you can use today. I think Destiny's done stuff like that too in the
Destiny
past.
definitely did that with expansions. Like pre-order it now, you get this gun right now, and then you'll get more stuff once the game comes out. Yeah.
So I think that there's like, the only reason that I think that stuff works today is just like excessive FOMO that you get on those situations, or it's like, yeah, you'll never see this again if you don't get it now. But yeah, I think it's interesting because I don't think pre-ordering is the right thing for the industry, but I still do a lot of it. Also, it's like, hey, if I get some Steam gift cards, I'm just going to go and buy some shit with them. That way I kind of have that, like, I know I'm going to get these games, so I'm just going to go ahead and pre-order them. That way I can like not use my own money on it.
I mean, I think that 58% is that's a great way to live if you can do it. to only buy games when they go on sale probably helps your wallet quite a bit. A couple of things that I would push back on that, and I'm not. Hey, if you only have so much money to dedicate to games and you need to wait for a sale, perfectly on board with that. No issues there. But there are a couple of things I think about. One is that extra money does mean something to a developer. So if there's a game that you that is not going to be a million seller, not a huge video game. We even see somebody in the chat. I haven't read the full thing, but I see Tears of the Kingdom there. Tears of the Kingdom is going to be just fine. You can wait. Well, I mean, you could wait for a sale. You'll be a skeleton before it goes on sale, because Nintendo doesn't do that.
I don't think they've ever put that. I don't even think Breath of the Wild's been on sale.
No, they'll put a couple of things on sale every once in a while, but yeah, not the ones you'd really want. But for a smaller game, like when we were pumping up Fights in Tight Spaces, like that game is incredible. More people should play it, and also more people should buy that for full price, so that developer
demo
can
out
continue
for
to make
Knights right now. By the way, new demo.
Yeah. So and you know, they can make new games because their old ones sold well and sold for, you know, a certain price. So if you're cutting out 30% of the money that they might have gotten, that can be tough. And then the other one is everything's so fucking fast today, right? Like something goes into the collective consciousness and is there for a couple days, a week, and then it's gone. That's why you've gotten a bunch of games that have tried to do this game as a service thing, so they can stay in that kind of zeitgeist for weeks, months, years. Because there are so many games. Like, how many people are really talking about Astrobot anymore? Astrobot came, got a news cycle, and then it's gone again. And you run the risk, I guess, of if you're always waiting for a sale, you never get to be a part of the conversation when it's happening.
I'll take that thought a step
really
further. And I agree with you 100% on that. I cannot tell you how quickly things are spoiled in the day and age that we have today. Like there's no, like, I think podcasters that are very close to it do a good job. I know we certainly try to say like, this is going to be remotely a spoiler, or, hey, we're going to get really in depth on it. But I think TikTok's probably the worst when it comes to this, because it is just quick loading of things. But, you know, this can be an episode of The Penguin that like I typically watch as it airs, but I'll grab my phone after that episode, and there's already people that have like screen grabbed and like talked about what's going on or reacted to it. And the same thing, like I'll use Echoes of Wisdom. I'll be scrolling through one of these things and I'll see some sort of echo that they can make. And I'm like, oh, that would have been cool to find. Like I didn't, but I know it's there now. Not that it's the end of the world, but I think if you wait, you are most certainly not only removing yourself from the zeitgeist, but you are opening yourself up to a potential spoiler, like coming into something and having it ruined for you.
Yeah, it's tough. Like you want to be a part of that conversation, so you want to play things as fast as possible and buy the new game so you can be there. But you're also contributing to that culture if you do it that way. So I mean, I would love it if games had a longer tail and we discussed things over a longer period of time. But there are too many games coming out for that to work, and that's not going to get you site traffic for these websites that are still struggling to stay around. Now, there is like one small safety valve, and that is coming up in a couple of months, and that is Game of the Year time, where you do have a bunch of games that you missed that first time around, or maybe you didn't pick it up, and you know you are getting some holiday sale stuff, but you are also getting a number of voices on podcasts like ours or other people's who are more popular than us. I mean, who could that possibly be? But you have these voices that come in and go, hey, I thought this game was great, and you go, I never heard of that game, or oh, I remember hearing a little bit about that game, but I never touched it. Right. And then that is kind of your chance of, oh, we're talking about that game again because it's in like the lexicon for another week, for another news cycle, and it gives it a second life of like being available and being part of that conversation again. Yeah. But it kind of sucks that we live in a video game society of you really get like 2 weeks to talk about your game, and they're not even 2 weeks together.
I know, it's wild. I certainly, I always tell myself like I'm very fortunate because I have a very understanding partner in life, and I've got a very demanding job, but I've found ways to work around like in my personal life to play games, and that's a big focus. But even with myself working things through a clip and having the finances to afford to like play games as they're coming out,
Right.
it can be a problem too on like juggling those things and having the show into it. And I feel like we bring this up a few times a year, but I think what I have done this year is I've given myself a little bit more time to kind of sit with things versus feeling like I have to pick up the next one. And I haven't probably, I certainly haven't been dipping into the well of like Ubisoft games like I have in years past, and even Game Pass for that matter. And certainly on Sony, like I feel like a lot of those has slowed down. There's been some stuff with Nintendo this year I've picked up, but it's an interesting concept. And I think that ultimately, like, make a decision that's right for you. And you bring up some really good points on you run the risk of not being a part of like the excitement and the conversation on it. I still haven't, I think the closest I've gotten to it outside of you and I and like a few of our like in real life friends about talking about video games, I haven't found like a community, maybe a little bit on Threads, to have a good discussion on a game. But like, I'm not a part of a Discord for stuff, and I'm not really like, I'm not seeing spots to have those conversations like I'd want to. And I think that's why I value the show so much, is that this is one of the only places I feel like very comfortable talking about takes and things and excitement around video games is with you and occasionally one of our friends that pop on here. But you need to find a spot where you can do that.
I mean, one of the interesting things to me, you talked about people outside of our immediate bubble who are talking about video games that you sometimes come in contact with, and one of those for me is my boss at work.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't play a lot of games, but when he's playing a game, he's brings it up to me and it talks about it because he knows that I like games and probably know these things. And it was a couple of years ago, but he was talking about Outer Worlds, the not the space planet. Well, that's Outer Wilds. The other one,
the like
the one that's like
Bethesda one.
the Obsidian one. Yeah. And he was playing through that, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm glad. Like, are you liking it? I remember I kind of bounced off it a little bit, but I like some of what it was doing. So we were talking about it, and because he doesn't have a podcast, because he doesn't live in this zeitgeist thing, he's not reading up on news every day about video games. He would just talk about it, 10 minutes a day or something over the course of months. Because that's, he would just play a session here or there and he'd come and talk to me about it. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like I got to have this longer conversation about a video game, not even a video game I particularly cared about, but it was just kind of cool to have that longer conversation that wasn't always, oh, what are we moving on to next? Like, what's the next game? Like, nobody's going to see we're not going to talk about the ending of these games because we have to talk about the beginnings of 3 other games. And it was really cool to just kind of be along for the ride of his journey as he slowly picked away at a video game, and we just kept talking about it. And that was a really cool feeling. I wish I had more of that, but again, we live in a world where we have to play things as they come very quickly.
But sometimes if you wait 20 years, a game comes along and gets remade.
That's true. I would say it doesn't even take 20 years these days.
No, depending on what studio you're talking to.
Give it 2.5 years and we'll be like, yeah, we probably should remake that game, right?
Oh my God. I did end up, I don't know if you saw, but they completely pulled Horizon Zero Dawn from Steam, and the only option they had now was the remastered complete version. And if you owned it like I did, that you have a $10 option there to upgrade the game with the new visual overhaul and all the dialogue. So I paid the $10 and we'll see what that game does here in a few weeks. I am probably going to record some video of it prior to the update that comes for it, and just see if I can
some comparisons.
Mm-hmm. So I'll fire that up, because I think I mentioned on the show, like I until Forbidden West hit PC, I was using Zero Dawn as like the barometer of like what my tuning needs to be here, which is cool. But and what I'm getting at with this is you waited long enough to play Advance Wars 2, and you got a chance to check out Reboot Camp, and you've had a whole documented journey that you've concluded on your YouTube channel. Which
you know what, that's a good point. In a similar way to my boss, I kept playing that game for 25 straight weeks. With
Yeah,
I think there's 25 episodes. So I played the same game for 25 weeks, picking at it a little bit at a time. And that was kind of cool to have that long tail
totally.
experience with a game. And that is something you get to do with a weekly channel like that, where I was only playing an hour or two every session. So yeah, I finished Advance Wars 2, Black Hole Rising, as part of the Advance Wars 1+2 reboot camp version. So this is
Very
the
cool.
remake
And
one
you never
with
played you never played it to completion on your advanced, correct?
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't own it when I didn't even realize they made a second game for a long while, and I think I actually picked up the DS game, which is the third game, Dual Strike.
Okay.
I picked that one up when I had a DS. I don't know if it just got marketed to me better or what happened,
Sure.
but I played 1 and I played 3, and I think I even played 4, Days of Ruin, which also came out on the DS. And then much later, I picked up Advance Wars 2 on the GBA, and I didn't play it for very much because I had Dual Strike. I could just go
Yeah.
back and play, a newer game with more options, and so I wanted to own it because that's a series that means a lot to me. But I'd never really gotten all that far in the campaign, so this was kind of brand new to me as I went through and I played it for the YouTube channel.
Did you have fun?
I did. I think there are a couple of levels there that are, especially kind of like in the early mid game, where they put time limits on you, or not time limits, it's like turn limits on you. And I never find those to be very fun because it's
No,
it's not generally the way I play those kinds of games. I kind of like to turtle up and move slowly. I like the guy who does the artillery and can just shoot from further back, which leads you to turtle even more. And so I didn't really like those missions, but I think there are a few like gimmicky kind of missions that felt really fun. Like
sure.
the rule set for this game is the same on every single map, but the arrangement of the types of units you get at the beginning, or the way the terrain works, or there's more water on this one, or there's no water on this one, or the enemy has a huge army and you have nothing to begin with, but you have maybe like a tactical advantage from like a uh, from like the number of cities that you get to start with or something like that, and you have to hold out for so many turns. And I think they're able to find enough different ways of playing that game over the course of 30 something missions that
That's
I
awesome.
found it to be a really fun experience. Yeah, I had a
That's
great
cool,
time.
man. And again, we always plug it, but you can watch that entire journey on Chase's YouTube page right now. And there's some other cool stuff that he's done with like Nuzlocke runs. And I know he did Pokemon Stadium stuff. Some really cool stuff there. I think he did through all of SteamWorld Heist 1 there too, correct?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And I announced it. I kind of announced what I'm going to be doing next. I'll talk about it more at the end of the show. But I'm going to be playing some Pokemon trading card game,
oh, nice.
and that'll be fun too.
Probably some
Um,
really shitty artwork to go with it, but
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. One of the interesting things about me starting my YouTube career, I guess. I wouldn't say I have fans, but I do have a couple of people who have left comments more than once. And I'll say that is a scary thing.
yeah, man. Like it's nice to have a community for sure. I go back and forth on wanting more and being terrified of that also because people are cruel, people are mean and weird,
Yeah.
and
And I
they're
haven't really gotten any of that. The worst thing I gotten, it's very much Advance Wars brain, so I get why it's happening here. But you'll get commenters, or more often than not, the same commenter on a number of videos is like, "Hey, you should have moved your T copter one space over to the right at night at the 1907 minute mark,
oh god,
because you would have gotten you would have gotten to that city one turn faster if you did that." I'm like, "You're right." I can go back to the footage and I can see it, and I go, yes, you're right. I didn't play that perfectly optimally, but also I'm not a robot. Like
yeah,
I'm not going to play that game perfectly. This was a blind run. I didn't know what I was up against. Um, I can understand. Like I'm not playing this tactically perfectly, but I'm that's part of the fun is like me struggling and maybe banging my head against something. And you know, every once in a while you would get some comments from people that would go, hey, actually the game works a little bit like this, or here's like a thing about the AI that you might not know about, and it's always going to go after like the highest value unit, so you know you can trick the game a little bit when you're playing it. And I was like, oh, that's actually cool to know, thanks. I
Yeah,
will use that for the next time. And that's just a thin line between somebody being helpful and somebody being annoying, and I get that it's tough. I think it's going to be less of a problem with something like Pokemon Trading Card Game,
sure.
which I am generally better at, I would say, or the options available to me are easier to understand which one's good and which one's bad. That I will probably do well at, and I don't imagine I'll have as many commenters like that. But it was interesting and a little scary to be like, oh right, I'm putting myself out there
Yeah.
and somebody is going to point out the imperfections, even if it's something as silly as you could have moved that unit one more space to the left or something.
Nice. Well, that was Advanced Wars 2. Congrats on beating it.
Thank you.
I've got a couple games to get through. I think I'll have two small updates and we can have a pretty deep conversation before the Xbox stuff. But
Sure.
I've been playing a lot of Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred. That is the expansion that will set you back $40, I believe, is what the price tag is for that. They do have a bundle where you can get everything for 70 right now. But I gotta tell you, man, like this is a really cool class. They introduced the Spiritborn into it. They also give you an entire new area to go into that's also really neat. And the campaign stuff that they've expanded on is gross but cool. Mephisto is really
Hmm.
prominent in this one, and he's just awesome in this. The voice acting, the look, all that's really great. But Spiritborn's interesting because everybody's playing it, and I'm playing this with Johnny and friend of the show Zoe, and then one of her friends named Stefan. And there's like four, not tiers, but kind of like classes within a class or subclasses of Spiritborn that you can go
Okay.
into. And I'm playing a really fast version that they're all based off of animals, so that it's kind of like a druid
So
meets a monk.
did they force you into that class
No,
or
but it's
okay?
just it's right now, I think, especially with the meta, like this is a really, really well done class that I think is probably like the best class in the game right now,
Hmm.
based off of what they did to it. And it's pretty wild because there are like four spirits that you kind of channel with it. So it is more melee focused like a monk would be, but you've got some of the druid elements into it that you can like summon. So mine is more electrical and bird focus. So I kind of shoot out this quill, these feathers that's almost like a shotgun blast, and that's like my main attack. And then one of the big attacks that I can bring in is this giant fucking hawk flies in and creates this circular area that it just like blasts everything.
Okay.
Zoe is playing more of this like venomous centipede build, so you'll see these giant centipedes come out of the ground and kind of do damage over time. And then Johnny, I can't remember which one he has. There's a gorilla, I think that's more fire, and there was one other one. But Johnny can kind of corral and pull people together. It's not quite like the hunter move in Destiny where the arrow would like pull everybody together,
Hmm.
but he'll do that, and then I'll usually stick the bird on it. So there's some cool synergies, even though we're all playing the same class. It all feels uniquely different on screen when you're playing it, and I think that's a really smart tactic to make it feel, because they knew everybody was going to be playing this thing. It's a brand new class.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like that is not really an option when it comes to the classes that the game already had?
I think Sorcerer gives you that a bit because you can do more elemental builds like fire or electrical there as well. Druid, yeah, I guess you could like maybe an owlbear build versus one of these things, but
Hmm.
um typically the game benefits when you synergize a bit of these classes together. I think the second like tier that I'd call out is Rogue is really powerful right now too, from like a melee and just kind of like area of effect. But the new areas I mentioned, it's really cool. It's a jungle. It's got what feels to be a bit more of like runes and stuff that you go into, and the ongoing Helltide stuff is great. There's like an undercity area that you can go into and do some really fun like public events and shit. they've just really dialed it in, and like the loot's really great on this. The seasonal loot is even better. I've not done anything where I haven't gotten something that has significantly boosted my build, and I haven't even like followed a gear guide yet, but I've been going down a path on the build and having a great time. It's just mindless time. It's like eating fucking hot dogs. It's great.
Is that generally your way that you like to play these things? Is not having the guide as you go in?
No. I typically I will start to design my build up front. And if I don't like the way it feels, I'll quickly respec and try another version of it. But I like a game like this is I need something that is able to be solo at the same time and like go
Sure.
in and kind of hold my own. But I'll kind of research a little bit and watch some videos of like what builds would be. And there's another game I'll talk about where I'm not really doing that, and it's been playing probably better for me. But this is cool because I'm just kind of following a guide, checking the boxes, turning my brain off when I need to, and just making numbers go up. So
That is
it's
one of those tough things. Is like you're playing games. Like I think about Destiny, but
mhm.
there's certainly lots of other games there too. Like a World of Warcraft, I imagine, where there's so many ways to play the game, but if you are trying to solo stuff, you really do kind of need to be a jack of all trades and a
Yeah,
master of none. Whereas if you get into like the higher level raid content of like a WoW, you need somebody who is a dedicated healer, but is playing a dedicated healer alone, just through the normal content, is that fun to do? Is that effective? Does that feel like you're just wasting your time?
right.
And it can sometimes, like there's and for Destiny, Destiny's a little different because everybody can shoot guns, and you're generally okay, but there would be some supers where it's like, well, this super is really more of a defensive one. I'm putting up a big barrier, which is okay alone, but it's really meant so your entire team can jump into that barrier and then jump out and do a thing. And it feels like you're hamstringing yourself a little bit if you're trying to play solo content with that. And that can be a real bummer. So I guess what I'm saying is I think it's cool that Diablo, it seems like you are able to do more solo build kind of stuff and have a little bit
Yeah.
more freedom of expression as you're playing
If
through
that's
like that.
really like your MO, absolutely. And you can find stuff that's like, I just need to survive. Like, give me a survival build that I can just get through this and go that route. And I appreciate that they do seasonal characters because it makes you explore new things and try new things. And I think that's really, really cool how they do it. So I'll keep playing it. Like, again, like I kind of fell off of it when it first came out and it wasn't polished the way I wanted it to be. And in true Blizzard and Diablo fashion, it takes a little bit, but they've got it there. And I think that Diablo 4, if you haven't played it, there's not a better time than now. Like they've got this thing dialed in. Loot's good. There's a good community playing it. You can always find people to jump into public events with you without being in a party. So that's helpful too. And I think there is, they just introduced it into this expansion, which was part of 3, but there's a whole mercenary. You can buy mercenaries to go with you and do shit now too. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, there's some cool stuff with it. So that's Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred. That's out now on pretty much everything. Check it out if you want to. Another game that I streamed with you on the demo, which the next test is going on right now. We might have some of those to show off on Monday, but from Strange Scaffold Studios that came out on September 10th is I Am Your Beast. And this is such a cool game. It's got the neon white vibes to it. It's kind of got like the Hotline Miami, not quite super hot. This is a fast as fuck kind of timed get through limited ammo, throw guns when they're empty at these kind of militia folks. So you used to be a part of a mercenary crew. You've since removed yourself, but nobody is truly ever gone. And they're now coming at you. It actually looks like it's in the App Store too. I just saw the trailer that this is on
Oh yeah.
iOS. So
Huh.
it's one last job apparently that they want you to do, but you decline it, so now they're hunting you through the woods. And it is a very well done. The actual developer of the game does all the voice acting of the main character and really sticks to landing. I think he's done that in other games that they have too. El Paso Elsewhere, I'm pretty sure, is where he did the voice for it. But he really nails it because you're kind of like having this earpiece conversation with your prior handler, and they know that you're incredibly gifted at what you do. And this game is all about finding the most fucked up and efficient way to get through things. And each level has bonuses like, hey, only use knives, or don't throw your weapon, or don't run out of ammo or something to that degree, and you get little bonuses on it. But it is something where I'm not wired to be motivated by global list of like doing the best and topping the charts. But it is nice to know that like I can compete with my friends that they were playing. And I think that Neon White was probably a bit better for this than what this is.
Yeah, I mean that was. I mean, I mean, are there like medals here where you get like a gold, silver, bronze tier based on your time?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that was very Neon White, where I could certainly compete with my friends or on a global leaderboard, but it was also nice to know that I just want to hit the par times, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just play this until I hit the par time, and then I can feel good going to the next one. I don't need to be the master of this. Like I know, like Jeff Grubb is very excited for all the Astrobot challenge levels to be coming out.
Yeah.
He is so much into that time trial stuff.
I just never promoted it. It's not my thing.
Never. The closest I was when Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, the not the remake, but like the reboot of Need for Speed came out, and had like every track you had the auto log, I think is what it was called, where you could see how your friends did. And that was a time where, that was college. So I had a little bit more free time on my hands, where it was like, oh, somebody beat my time on that track. I gotta go grind my times. And that is just not me anymore. I could not possibly be me anymore.
This game is super fun. It's very fast. I don't think it's incredibly long, but it is just a great arcade shooter. And I think that the game feel is really good. The sliding, the jumping, climbing up into trees and jumping down is really cool how they've done it. But this one will set you back $20. There's a bundle that you can get this in Arco for $35 right now. They also have the entire Strange Scaffold, which they crank out a lot of games. It's 15% off right now at the time of this recording. You can get every game in their catalog for $108 if you choose to do so. And that's a small studio that is really handling. I haven't checked it out. Maybe we'll do it sometime, but there is a Twitch integration, which I don't quite know what that will do, but that's a part of the game, and maybe we can turn it on sometime.
How's the difficulty? Because I remember when we played, or when I watched you play it, it looked hard. It was certainly hard. Like you're supposed to lose these levels quite a bit, and
that
go
is
back
true.
And try to master them.
It almost becomes a game of memory. Like the people are in the same spot. So once you start, and I think that's good for like time trial games, because it needs to be consistent, and then you need to figure out where you can shave time. Like, hey, if I pick this stick up and instead of just knocking the guy in the head with it, if I throw the stick as I'm approaching him, it will knock him down. His gun will be in the air. I can go ahead and just grab that and save myself a click and a move, and I can use the other move to kick them while they're down and kill them and move on. So like you start to find ways, like maybe I died halfway through it, but all the while I'm finding actually if I go right here at this fork instead of left, I can sneak up on it, save a bullet, hit him this way, and still get the same thing. So while it is meant to be played and be kind of punitive, it's also meant to educate you on like, you should be improving. You should be better. Go faster, do better. And I can get on board with that. I think it would be really hard to do this game on stream if I were to be like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. Or like if somebody's like, oh, you suck, that would be hard. But yeah, it is a hard game, but it is a rewarding game, because you get that same feeling of like, I'm a badass that you did at the end of like a super hot. But this is cool. Like I will tell you, I have become very impressed with Strange Scaffolding, because I think that they are doing some very intelligent games, and it seems like their studio has some really good vision and purpose on it. So what I do want to save a little bit extra time for, because I know we're going to talk about Xbox, but the game I've played the most, and the game that has quickly been creeping up my favorite things of this year, is Metaphor ReFantazio. And it's so fucking good, Chase. I have completed. So what I will tell you is I was not prepared for this game to have like the literal tracks from the Persona soundtrack in it. And
oh, really?
Like one of the songs that you would get like in the fights of a Persona game happens in this, which reminds me so much of like Knight's Tale, when you would hear Queen playing with like, it's really cool how they do it. But it follows a similar principle where it's like, hey, you have this event coming up, you've got 2 weeks to complete it, so build your crew up. But if you do it early, then you just have like no, like you're basically still waiting for the next event, so you can just kind of do like your social link stuff. I have I have 2 other party members with me. I no longer have one of them with me, but I have 2 new ones, and I have really kind of synergized some stuff on how you do the job system. And I want to talk to you primarily about that system because I think it's really inventive for this type of game. This is, by all intents and purposes, to be reductive, like this is just fantasy Persona. It's a lot more than that, but at the end of the day, you are managing relationships. You have a day and night that you can choose what to do in both of those areas. And it will let you know, like, hey, most of the people this day, they went and they worked in the inn. Hey, these people actually went to the dungeon and did it. It kind of lets you know the same way Persona would. But what happens though is you are maintaining levels into archetypes. So if you go and do these things, you're going to be leveling up an archetype. So most of these, when you go from level 1 to 2, the cost, the in-game currency, there's 2 of those. There's just like your traditional coin, but then there's also one called Magla, I believe, or Magal or something to that degree. That's what you use to buy archetypes. So you'll unlock them, and you can literally buy any archetype for any of your characters. So you start off the main character as a seeker, you meet another character that introduces a warrior, and then you meet a knight, and so on and so forth. And you end up meeting somebody that's not in your party, but because you've established a relationship with them, it's unlocked the mage. And so what I have done now is most of my characters, everybody has 2 archetypes that they started to spec into, but most of them I have 3. And I'll give you an example. So the knight is a tank. They can actually, like, one of the first moves you unlock is they taunt and they proc all the damage that would come to them, and they can take it like a champ. But you unlock a class that's a healer type, and I was thinking, like a healer tank kind of sounds interesting. And what happens later on in the game is that once you unlock these archetypes, you then can go into the equivalent of the blue room or the velvet room, whatever it's called in Persona, and you can inherit skills from other jobs that you've gotten to a certain level. And there are sub jobs within these. So, like, for example, if you get warrior to level 20, you can then go into a sword master, and you unlock those abilities too. Basically call for the next 3 turns all the damage to come their way, and then start healing themselves and those around them as you start to figure out like synergies. You have weaknesses that are the same in Persona. This one they introduce more like pierce versus slash or blunt damage on top of elemental, which is cool. But you've got also colored loot in this, which I don't recall being a thing in Persona. Here, like, I found there was a particular part in the game where you have to sneak around a dragon. And I was like, that doesn't sound fun. Well, we'll see what happens if I go up to the dragon. I ended up fighting the dragon. It was a tough fight very early in the game, but I got a purple drop from it for this really badass sword for my warrior that does offer these kind of like permanent enhancements. The other cool stuff about it is I can, when you switch your job system, like once you've unlocked it, you can just immediately switch over in your menu. So like, I've got this character started off as a warrior, but now I know I'm going into an area where there's going to be a necromancer with skeletons. They don't really take damage from this type of it. So I'm going to move them more to a melee focused brawler type. So I've got like a warrior brawler mix. Then I've got my seeker mage, but I did unlock a merchant class. And that sounds really interesting when you think about it. Merchant does a few things. You can actually do an attack that uses your money instead of your mana points.
Okay.
But it increases drop rates of like more, rare items. So I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to go ahead and start to spec this thing up, get some passive abilities from the merchant class, and then have them stay present on more of my damage dealing class.
Sure.
And like you start to get these really cool ideas of how you bring it all together. And all the while, you have just a brilliant undertone of Persona happening where you're going through the city, you're hearing about these factions or these things that are going on. The story seems to be very epic and very cool. Like there's a a supposedly dead prince that's caused all kinds of shit. Some like really like Game of Thrones level houses competing against one another and just like fucking cool story stuff. But they've added in this tinkering where you can really start to tune your party. And outside of like you're following this like really lovable group of teens coming of age story like a Persona, this Epic allows you to go in and have a bit more of like a party control, like something like a Baldur's Gate or a Dragon's Age or something like that on top of it. So it's really, really well done. The last thing I'll say is if none of that sold you, being able to skateboard on your sword to get from point A to point B is pretty fucking cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had this conversation off pod, but I'm already sold. In fact, I'm literally already sold. I've purchased the game. It is downloaded. It is on my PS5. I'm jealous of you playing it, even though I could absolutely just shut this computer off right now and go immediately play it at this very moment. And you know why I haven't. One, I haven't haven't had a whole lot of time for games in general, but I'm also really trying to stay laser focused on Zelda. I want to get that one done, and then I want to go back to Astrobot and get that done. But after those two, that one is definitely the next one I'm going to be playing. Which is tough because there's also Neva that just came out, and I'm so excited to play Neva. I mean, that game's super short. I could probably play that.
I think that's like 4 to 6 hours, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But then like Nintendo is now starting to send me YouTube pre-roll ads of the Mario and Luigi Brothership game. And I'm like, God damn, that looks really good. And I need to play that.
I know.
And then that Pokemon trading card mobile game comes out at the end of the month.
Well, here's the thing,
a lot of stuff.
There will be a lot of this game to play, but I do think, I know that you've made the comment that this is on like a lot of people's radars, but for me, I wasn't expecting to pick up Metaphor because I just don't think I had the name recognition that like a Persona would, and I haven't really been drawn to the SMT games outside of Persona, and this one is really sticking like in a way that I wanted to go play Persona 5 Royal. I played Persona 3 Reloaded and was having a good time with it, but this one, I think it feels fresh enough and different enough where like Persona 3 and Persona 4 and Persona 5 all kind of feel a little bit alike in a way, not in a bad thing, but
yeah, they found a formula and they were sticking to it.
Yeah, this is really cool though. I think that you will really enjoy it.
I at this point I kind of know for a fact I'm going to enjoy it. It is just me getting to it. Like I look at it every day that I'm in this room. I see that Baldur's Gate 3 box still sealed, and I'm like, yeah, I should probably play that. But
honestly, though, they're still adding stuff into it to finish it, so I think you're okay.
So yeah, I think Metaphor's going to skip the line, and that is definitely going to be something I'll be playing here real soon. And from everything you've said, I think I'm going to adore that game. I just need to do it.
I've got the first main dungeon down. There's a couple sub ones that you can do optionally that I'm going through and doing right now. I think my highest social level is 3. So I'm getting to a point now where you get, that's what I didn't mention. When you hit level 2, the cost is cheaper. So like they want you to buy multiple archetypes per character. So they make it cheaper to do it. And then when you get to like level 3, they start to give you like a different passive perk and stuff. So it's cool. I think you will like it.
Yeah. Can't wait to play it.
We've got a little bit of time left to hop into it, but today was the Xbox Partner Showcase, and they had some stuff to show today. The Partner Preview, I think, is what they actually call it, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
So
no, I think they did call it a Partner Showcase.
I don't know how many games in total they went through here. It was like a 25-minute event, so a shorter one for them. But I think that they did a decent amount of games, if I'm not mistaken here. Some things that we've known for a bit, but there were a few surprises that popped up on this today, which I think is cool. Chase, I don't know if there's anything in particular that you wanted to call out, but I thought maybe we can just kind of talk through some things that stood out to us.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just to give a little bit better recap. I was reading the Verge recap. I didn't watch this live, but the Verge has 9 trailers here on
Okay.
their recap. So there might have been more than 9, but I did see these 9. It certainly did not feel like a show for me.
Yeah.
Like, hey, they showed Animal Wells coming to Xbox today.
Eden's Zero could be your thing.
Which one?
Eden's Zero.
Oh, okay. That's not on this list, but I did see a trailer for that too. Yeah, what was that? It's like a roguelike hero shooter. I heard somebody
It's
describe
based on the manga by Hiro Mishima, author of Fairy Tale and Rave Master. I don't know if either one of those stand out to you as like known quantity.
I've heard of Fairy Tale, but I'm unfamiliar with both.
But I think it's based off. That's the only reason I called it. I was like, maybe this would be something there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, hey, I love Animal Well. Nice that more people are getting to play Animal Well. That's a fantastic game. People should try it. I'll tell you one that I was probably the most interested in, even if it's not a game I would ever play. Is that Blind Fire? I think Blind Fire has a really cool concept. This idea of this first-person arena shooter, but it's dark. Everything's dark. You can't see shit, and it's a lot of, like, they call it like a tactical shooter in that way, where it's a lot of like ways of trying to like get your opponent to reveal themselves in some way. Like, there are lights around the arena that somebody might walk through. It looks like your get up will light up at certain intervals, maybe, and that like makes everybody visible. Like, you have some that in one of the trailers it showed like kind of like a night vision equivalent, that maybe that's like a temporary power up you can get. But that seems really cool, of playing with a lot of light and shadows and like really quick kills. And I could see that being a pretty cool thing, even though multiplayer shooters are definitely not my bag these days.
This one seems a little bit more unique. Yeah, there's a cool thing here with it for sure. I thought for sure you had seen the trailer previously for that Mouse PI for Hire. The kind of
that was totally new to me.
Yeah, I think it kind of has that like Steamboat Willie vibe to it, like early Disney, but in the spirit of like a Cuphead. This is like a black and white noir shooter that looks to have a lot of style and looks that maybe would piss off Disney, but the other one I thought
baby.
I know. I thought you would like Wheel World also. I thought that looked like something that you would dig.
Oh, I didn't see that one at all. So I guess there was way more than 9 things.
I think purely from a style standpoint. So Wheel World is a bicycle racing game. I don't know if you had a chance to see any screenshots or trailer for it, but you can do some cool stuff with like bike customization, and it is an early 2025 game, by the way. But I think it kind of reminds me of like Cell Shaded Sable in a way. I know that there's that other game that we talked about. It's a parcel delivery game that looks really cool.
Yeah.
But this, I think, just looks beautiful. I love the style of it. I think this would be a cool racing game to check out. I know you like racing games and you like to tinker a bit, and I think that you like this art style, but I don't think you're big into cycling. So who knows?
If it's cool, I'm into it. This is the first time I'm seeing it. It does I like the look for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's got a lot of style. Absolutely.
Now I'm just pissed at The Verge for not having not having the definitive list of things that were at this show.
I know. Babu, The Legend of Babu is another one that I thought had a little bit of heart and charm to it. I don't know if you saw that one either. BABOO. This one looks really, really pretty and unique as well. Just pumped the trailer for it here. Yeah. Trying to get past this Batman VR. This one is you play as a young protagonist, and you have their dog with you. They don't have a lot more on it, but it maybe looks like, I know it's not, but I get like some Rare vibes a little bit, like that. Was that Kenna Bridge of Spirits that came out a couple years ago? But this looks to be a little more action RPG-y, and not a bad thing, but looks like it's got some heart to it for sure. Pretty neat one.
Yeah.
But the big ones for me, of course, are going to really come to the tune of, and you and I talked about this at the beginning of the show offline, but we finally got to see what this Control universe multiplayer game looks like in practice, and it looks to be pretty cool. It's called Firebreak, but tonally it felt very different from other stuff that we've seen in that universe. This actually has a little bit more of like a tongue-in-cheek light hardness to it. Some of the weapons and outfits, I was like, this does not match anything that I've seen in the new Alan Wake universe, and certainly not in Control. Like, this feels, I don't want to say Splatoon.
No, yeah, it's not quite that. It's more like it's just kind of like thrown together of these were the things that people had available to them to attack with. Like it's kind of like Samwise Gamgee holding up the pan as like a thing. He's like, this is all I got. I don't have a sword, so I'm gonna use this pan instead. So it's like people with like, oh, here's like a fireman's helmet thing that's like also on kind of a gas mask that's also kind of like these overalls, and it feels very yeah, just kind of like tossed together of let's figure out what we're doing here. Do you know what the FBC, so it's called FBC Firebreak. I don't know what FBC stands for.
Federal Bureau of Control.
Oh, sure. Of course. That makes sense.
That's what that, and that they're in the eldest house. It looks like it's taking place in the same environment that Control was. My guess, based off of some of the outfits, is they are like a cleanup crew. And that's what I'm assuming. So it's a 3-player PvE co-op game. From what I'm seeing so far, there might be some PvP stuff that hasn't been announced yet, but FBC Firebreak, it is going to be on Game Pass, which I think is a smart move for them. It'll be out in 2025 sometime. They also highlighted the DLC for the Lake House of Alan Wake 2, and I think this is like their big expansion, and it looks weird and wonderful also. But in the spirit of time, and just for me to wrap this thing up, my absolute favorite thing shown here from an excitement standpoint was they teased Subnautica 2. And
they've already made a Subnautica 2. What do you mean?
They did. It was
Below Zero.
It was more of like it felt like an expansion or a standalone.
Yeah.
This is a true sequel to Subnautica. It's hitting early access in Xbox Game Preview in early 2025. The big thing to note here is this is going to add co-op multiplayer, which if you get people to play a game like this with you, like I did Sons of the Forest, it makes for a really great time, because this is a very scary game. Subnautica is terrifying at times, but also really rewarding and fun.
So you don't want me to play it with you, is what I'm hearing.
Well, you don't like crafting, building, or scary things, so I think that you would want not. And I we haven't really talked about underwater, but I'm sure that's on the
sailed.
List. Yeah. Sub no thank you. But yeah, Subnautica 2 is one that I'm very excited for. I've made it known on here before, but the diagram and spectrum of survival games or crafting games, I think Subnautica is probably my favorite survival crafting game, where like a Satisfactory is probably my favorite like factory and automation game.
Sure.
We'll see what this does. Like, I have nothing but faith in this team. They ship really good products. They've had a really good run with early access also. I think they're a better studio because of it. And this being on Game Pass makes me feel like I'll have some folks to play with when it comes out. So I'm excited for this one.
Yeah.
And all in all, like, there was some cool stuff shown.
Yeah, I don't think either of us are particularly interested in playing it. Maybe Johnny would be, because I know he's played some Yakuza games before. But the
pirate one, right?
Yeah, the Like a Dragon pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is silly. When I first saw a screenshot, I was like, oh, is Majima coming to Sea of Thieves? Like, is he just like a character skin? And then no, this is a full brand new video game that is in that kind of brawler style of Yakuza game, but they made Skull and Bones, but it looks way more fun than Skull and Bones ever did.
Well, that's a low fucking bar.
Yeah, no shit. But it just looks like they're completely leaning into the silliness and just having a really good time with it. I did see in the trailer Samoa Joe, the wrestler, just makes an appearance. I'm like, okay, sure. Why the fuck not? Yeah, absolutely.
There is one game that I think might crib too much on Souls rather than Black Myth Wukong, but the Wu Chang Fallen Feathers that got a demo, or not a demo, but a trailer, a pretty long one, like a 3-minute trailer. I could see the comparison to Black Myth. I could also see the comparison to Souls on this one. It looks super stylish, and I think the name also can kind of like
a certain,
yeah, totally. But this one is also a 2025 game, and I guess we got our first look at this back in June. I don't really remember that, but it is now confirmed to be a Game Pass Day 1 game. So one I'll certainly spend some time checking out and at least making an assumption when the time comes.
Yeah, it definitely has some like Sekiro vibes to it of just
100%.
the setting, and hey, it's kind of a Souls game.
Totally. Absolutely. But I think, Microsoft in general is in a weird place, and I think that they need to continue to bolster value in their Game Pass service. And they did a good job of at least keeping people interested and saying like, hey, these games are coming. There's a little bit of something for everybody here. And these are going to be day one partner games outside of what we are going to be bringing, which 2025 on paper right now looks to be a very big year from a software standpoint for Microsoft, as well as these games could be coming to other platforms, and who the hell knows what we might get with future hardware and potential partnerships of Game Pass being baked in, like you see Ubisoft Connect on that. So I've fallen a little bit out of love with Game Pass and Microsoft based off of the handling of studios and just some of the stuff over the last year, but I am a subscriber, and I am very much hopeful that that continues to be something that is sustainable, healthy, not only for consumers, but also for the developers that are having their games go to it. So I am optimistic, to say the least, for Microsoft, but I am cautiously optimistic for what that looks like. And we'll see. This is an interesting thing for sure. But that is our take on Xbox. We did talk tonight about Advance Wars 2 and Chase concluding his run on YouTube, so go watch that. We talked about Diablo 4, The Vessel of Hatred. We went into I Am Your Beast. We talked about Metaphor Refantasio, and we talked a little bit about just like when you should buy a game as well, and who you should trust to buy games.
Never. You should never buy video games. Stop buying video games.
Stop making sense. But if you want to follow along with what we've got going on here, let me get us over to credits. I did not update, I just realized, our schedule down here, so I'll do my best. We did not stream on Monday. Happy belated birthday to you, Chase. I hope you had a great one.
Thanks.
And tonight was episode 394 of what you've been playing, but I can tell you that the plan is to play Diablo tomorrow. I will admit, I have not been consistent with our schedule just because I have been getting settled still in the new house and getting caught up on work and all the things in life that come with that. And we're kind of getting into a period of like birthdays, holidays, and events. So I've been tied up, but I'm hoping to get back to a place of predictable scheduling for our show and get that programming locked in. But that's what we've got going on this week. Chase, we've talked a little bit about your contributions on the internet. What else you got going on?
Yeah. So for one, we talked about Chase K Plays, and I will have a new series that I will be starting next week. So definitely go check that out. So I will be playing a Pokemon trading card game, but I think I am going to play that hacked version that puts in the Pokemon from the Neo expansion. I think it's what it's called. It's the Gen 2 Pokemon get thrown in there. So it'll be a bunch of cards that I have never played with before, and that'll be kind of new for me, and that'll be fun. So we'll do that. I think I'm going to be calling that series "I'm Just a Bill." Bill, a very famous Pokemon card. So
I like
that'll be fun. Also, Schoolhouse Rock, you know?
Yeah.
So come join me on that. We'll see how that goes. It's still under the same engine as the original Pokemon trading card game, Bobby. So you remember that game's a little slow.
It is very slow.
So we'll see how it goes. But
cool.
I think it'll be fun. I've been very trading card pilled the last year or so with Magic the Gathering coming back into my life, and so I think it'll be fun to play with some cards and do some Pokemon stuff. So that'll be good.
Oh yeah.
I've also got another podcast that I do with our very good friend of the show, Pierce Corshane. It's called Pilot Program. We watch the first episodes of TV shows. Our last episode was on what the hell was it on? No, it wasn't Mad. It was Faulty Towers. That's right. Our 26th episode, and that was a lot of fun. Our 27th episode is going to be a little delayed. It wasn't just my birthday on Monday. It was also the birth of Pierce's new daughter. So congratulations, Pierce. Picked a great day to have that child. I will never forget that child's birthday now, which is very useful to me. And he won't ever forget my birthday. So, it works out great.
He will never celebrate your birthday either.
Well, that's true. Yeah. It's almost like, somebody had to, get married around my birthday, and then somebody had a child around my birthday or on my birthday. So, no one ever gets to celebrate
Why
me.
Why did you choose to be born on that day?
I'm just, it was really my choice. You're right. So we're going to be probably taking a bit of a hiatus. I don't know how long. I'm going to give him as much time as he needs before we come back. But I'm very excited about the next episode we're going to do. We've picked the show. We haven't announced it yet, but it is one of my top 5 television shows of all time. So very excited. You could
just find an episode of anime and have me come on and tell you all about it.
We could. Anime's on the 10s. So we have to wait till episode 30 until we can do another anime. That's doctor's orders. We'll see. But yeah, so go check out old episodes of Pilot Program, shows.acast.com/Pilot Program. And then hopefully maybe within the next couple weeks, we'll have something to announce about when our next one will be.
Hell yeah. We'll be back live tomorrow night. And again, if you are tuning in right now, just know up until Thanksgiving, we'll be doing these on Thursday live. So if you want to watch it and you couldn't on Wednesday, you can watch us on Thursday night. Otherwise, watch our VOD. Chase, thank you so much. Play Metaphor.